I have no mouth, and I must scream! Okay, wait. I haven't actually gotten to that fight, but do you know what I have been through though? Yeah, that's right. I kicked the ever-loving shit out of Omega, that sexy robot overlord, not really primal. Omega is an interesting character, if you can even call them a character in the common sense of the word. They have a human form, yes, but the most defining feature of its entire being is pretty clear. Apathy. Cold. Calculating. Ruthless. It's basically everything little 12-year-old Mimi wanted to create, but infinitely better. But Mimi, you'll say, you're getting distracted. Omega has a mouth right there, and I'm pretty sure it can scream. You are right, my student. Perhaps there are more than dreams of progging top swimming in our minds. My opening statement was an introduction to our topic, so sit in and I'll walk you through another psychology session. How is Omega like the Allied Master Computer, or AM, from the amazing point-and-click game or short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream? Let's introduce Omega again. Omega is a recurring character in the Final Fantasy franchise, but today let us focus on their iteration in 14, because I've only played 14. In 14, the formerly coined M017 is a chassis made by the Omicrons, a species basically hellbent on trying to kill all the dragons, those they deem to be the strongest in the universe. After Midgard Somnir, our grandpa dragon, escapes with a clutch of eggs to our world of Eorzea, Omega followed him throughout the endless sea of stars, weakening until it crashed onto our continent to be used by the Allagans to subdue Bahamut before being sealed away, silent amidst the plains of Cardenio. One thing you need to know about Omega is that we cannot use common psychological theory to kind of analyze their character. Kind of obvious because it is a robot. There was, however, someone, or I guess something, that reminded me of Omega, the titular character of Am, a massive supercomputer that has taken over the world in the hit novel I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. If you haven't read or played I Have No Mouth, you really should. Eventually, just do it after you watch this video, okay? There's a great audiobook on YouTube that I'll link in the comments, but I'll summarize with some vague spoilers in order to get on with this video essay. Similarities between Omega and Am are obvious at a glance. Both are robots capable of manipulating life somewhat. Omega can create life, while Am has rendered its test subjects immortal, unable to cause lasting harm to themselves. Both are touted as antagonistically supercomputers that are cold, calculating, and run their own tests on humans. But the most striking thing about them is how they handle their lack of humanity. You see, these two robots, as established in both Final Fantasy XIV and I Have No Mouth, cannot exactly, well, feel. They are essentially static and cannot experience the human experience like we can. They do not have parents, they have no experience of going to school, of making friends, of going out and seeing the world. Those two were made for war, but they were also made with intelligence. Now, we see the issue. Take a minute and think, and pretend that you're Omega or Am. Who are you, seeing those around you to be experiencing something you will never have the chance to touch or comprehend? That is where Am's animosity springs from, and Omega's curiosity grows. You give a being sentience, but you do not give it the opportunity to live a life of a being with sentience. In I Have No Mouth, Am's name, previously an abbreviation, is derived from the phrase I think, therefore I am. It takes pride in its apparent superiority to the human race, yet in some ways it is still hopelessly inferior. While it feels something, emotions such as rage are palpable in its writing and descriptions. That something has no outlet. It cannot travel the world like a tourist, it cannot live amongst the human race, or even its own kind. It is, well, alone. See where I'm going with this? Omega too experiences the same thing. It knows nothing of humanity, at least in Stormblood, and seeks to understand it. It is hopelessly lost. Though it has no emotions that we can correctly describe to be loneliness, it has something hauntingly similar, a lack of purpose. It is stranded in a foreign world, given sentience but with nothing to use its sentience for. Where both of these beings' personalities separate is reliant on their circumstances. Am, at the end of the story, is still Am. Its revenge and cruelty upon Ted, the narrator, but it is still in the same position as it was for God knows how many years. Alone, without a purpose other than to rage against the race that gave it its meaningless existence. Omega once had something similar, though it cannot be attributed to rage or a need for revenge. They searched for a sense of purpose and found that by testing the Warrior of Light. While it is established that Omega cannot exactly possess the same humanistic attributes of the Wall or humanity that allowed them to be defeated, one concept still stands. It was lost, stranded amidst the stars, with no derivative to be followed. But that is where Omega differs from Am, because Omega, spoiler warning, eventually is able to travel out and explore the world, together with Alpha. Eventually, Omega basically gets a light subscription of life. It can experience and observe firsthand human tenacity and their stories firsthand. In a way, you can kind of view Omega as an AI to be much like a human secluded from society. Omega is slowly but surely being wheedled back in, not to be a part of society necessarily as much as it is to learn and observe it. Omega has become more. It has become a character, fleshed out, tangible, no longer sort of constrained into the box of a boss or an enemy with a prime objective. Am, I would say, is sort of similar, except it develops into a character that is essentially an antithesis. It pushes itself so far into the box of being an enemy, a soulless being with a flat objective and meaning for life, that itself makes it a good character in its own right. Not because it is a character that we like, but because it is a character that is well written and brings up questions that we previously did not think about. When we create intelligence separate from our own, is it cruelty to give it life, but not the capacity to truly live? Whew! That was a long one. Hope it's not too long on you, or too heavy. Let me know your thoughts, and which characters from Final Fantasy XIV or otherwise you'd like me to analyze next. Goodbye!